see how this goes. We're all just standing here looking at each other like,
You? Oh no, sorry. Go ahead. No, you.
That's like the perfect intro right there, just for us. Hello there, everyone, and we are here on They Live by Labels Connected, I guess. Let's go with that. We've got three groups of people. Well, I guess I'm not a group, but hey, three different teams, and I am so stoked to see everybody in the same room. We got Chris from They Live by Film on the bottom. We got Zach from They Live by Film right next to him. Steven and Andrew from Chasing Labels, and me from the Disconnected.
Ryan, I was going to say you're two people. You're two people.
I mean, I'm tall enough to be two.
That's what I'm saying. You're big. You're a big guy. You're two.
Yeah, there's like your mama joke in there somewhere. Like your podcast's so fat, it's a whole community, something like that.
Yeah.
So the three groups here have kind of been spending the last couple of years doing industry interviews, whether it be with filmmakers or boutique label individuals or artists, contributors, commentators, and 1,900 other titles that we've all probably tossed around just willy-nilly. And we thought we'd come around and have a discussion to see how that's gone and just share some experiences. Because I don't know about you guys. I get a lot of questions about, like, how did you get this person? Or what were they like off camera? Or I still say the funniest thing I've ever been told. Somebody noticed I had, this was last year sometime, like 1,120 subscribers on YouTube. They were like, are you going to quit your job soon? Because you're getting paid to do this full time, right?
Only.
What about you guys? Anybody thinking that you're making bank off of this yet?
No, no.
I get a lot of questions. People asking, "Do you make money off of it?" They don't say like a lot, because when you tell them you have a podcast, they almost assume that I guess you have a big following, which really is not the case for most of us. You know what I mean? And even then, very true. You know, like you're saying, only if you have like millions of followers, I guess that's when the money starts rolling in.
Yeah,
and that's also if you have the right things in place, the right connections. I guess I don't know, but yeah, I get those questions all the time, and it's like it's a little awkward because it's like no, not really. I'm just doing this for the thrill,
yeah,
the love of the movies, really.
Yeah.
Zach seemed to have a yes.
Oh yeah, I'm making a ton of money off this. No, see,
Nice.
I actually, my advantage here is, see, Chris does all the interviews for the most part. Adam does all the editing. I just got to show up to the studio like every other week, and you know that's where mine comes in.
It's that buttery voice, Zach. We couldn't do it without you.
Of course.
No, we don't even have. I've had one person offer to send me like their stuff, but I said no because I was like, I don't mind buying. You're putting out 2 releases a year. Like, it's okay. Like, we're good. But that's the closest we've come to making money on this shit.
And that's the sad thing about this is no matter what, you can put in years and years and years and still literally end up with about what you started with in most cases.
I mean, I don't know how y'all feel, but for me, like, and this is not the intent of your question, but honestly, like, I don't really, like, I'm not relying on this, right? Like, this is just sort of like these are conversations that I've always kind of want to have, so I feel lucky to get to have them. So I don't know, that geekiness kind of part of me is going to be there for a while. So that's what kind of keeps me going, I guess.
And it's something that I think a lot of us are easily able to relate to because, again, no way that any of these things can probably make a full-time living, especially in 2023. For any of our podcasts, we're not getting tens of thousands of plays or views or anything like that every week or anything like that, unless you guys are just giant and I'm peering in from the outside and a small fry.
You'll never know. That's what I tell. Andrew doesn't even know. I don't even tell him.
I know.
You got the email that we're all sharing analytics pages, right?
For all I know, the thing is, Steven handles all of that stuff. You know, when it comes to the technical side, when it comes to knowing all the analytics and all that kind of stuff, that's pretty much him. So for all I know, I'm just going to say that we get 1 million views per episode. Why not? Because I don't even know. It's not a lie.
Go for it.
I just don't know. So,
well, honestly, I always check on it. Obviously, I check on it just out of curiosity every once in a while. But for the most part, I mean, there comes a point where it's like unless your growth is is just like out of the roof and it makes you really excited to check it all the time, then you're not. I check it routinely, but it's not a big deal because I do this because I like doing it. I mean, I've mentioned this to Andrew. I might have even mentioned to you, Ryan, before, but when it comes to the interviewing specifically, I've over time, as we've done it more and more, I've grown to understand that I really like it. And it is not even just, the talking to the people, all the obvious stuff, talking to them, getting to learn more about them, getting to share that stuff with the audience, but also there is a little bit of almost like a booker's high. I get like a booker's high. You're like booking people and you're like, God, I got this person. Can't wait to talk to them. Oh, wait, I'm going to go after this person. Oh, I got them. Oh, okay. You just keep it's like adding the collection, adding the Blu-rays on the shelf. You're like, oh, I add that to my library. It's like, oh, and it feels a little weird. It's like I'm collecting people, like the collector from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it becomes a fun thing of feeling more and more lucky. Like, how lucky can I get again? It becomes a little bit of an addiction. But I like it. I like. Finding a way to narrow down the idea that we're all the same. We're all getting all these people we interview. They're just like us. They just found a way to make a living at it. Out of being a nerd. And loving movies and
very true.
And that's what we gain a lot from most of the people that we talk to.
Very true. Even I would say that that's the case for even people you wouldn't think. Come from very humble beginnings, but everybody kind of starts out baseline movie fan. You know what I mean? Like that's the gestation of it all. And then of course everyone takes their own path to get to where they want to be. But it all starts out with that love of movies, love of collecting, love of physical media, all that kind of stuff. And we've learned that a lot of us all have the same start, whether it be with VHS, laser discs, et cetera, et cetera. It all seems to start at that young age.
Totally.
It's very true. And I think the way that all three of our, joined teams have kind of humanized a lot of these labels has meant, even just to me, just to listen to the stories all three of us have gotten, it's been real big to understand that these are, it's cliche to say, but they're people just like us, just to see how, oh yeah, I can see why they chose that and they went down this path. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That I can tell how they got there, and I could have seen myself doing that, and it just didn't happen that way.
So, but you said, Steven, you said totally, by the way, Ryan, but so you said that they make a living off it. And the thing that I think is super interesting is not all of them, right? Like I just was talking to somebody, I just found out, and apologies if y'all have had this person on and I just missed it, but I haven't been able to get Decanologue on the line. And that's still true, but I found out who he was, and he has a full-time job at Kino. Yeah. And he's super busy at Kino, and just it may take months to schedule, just in the sense of he has a full-time job, and but if you just look in the outside, the cover art, the films, the extras, everything going into Decanologue, you would just assume that it's like a machine. It's just somebody who's passionate about this, right, and kind of making some extra money on it. Anyways, I was I'm surprised how many times that's kind of happened as we've had these conversations about it's like a side gig.
Well, a lot of them, I remember when we talked to, I think it was the second time we talked to Deaf Crocodile. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I thought was, says a lot about how passionate they are about this when they put their Kickstarter up for Solomon King was, we're doing this whether or not we make a dime off the Kickstarter. And it's like, who knows how much that's going to cost, but thankfully, they made a good chunk, hopefully, from that. And it was very successful, but just a lot of passion that goes in there. I think that's what makes it more fun to listen to.
Yeah,
that's true. And then a lot of these contributors, just to back up what Chris said, I've had some of them off mic, share that they've got literally 12 part-time jobs worth of things that they're doing. And it's crazy, first of all, that they can manage all that, and that some of these projects take months and months that they're working on before they get any sort of income from it. And most of them are like, working on books and pitching film ideas and stuff all at the same time. And it's sad, first of all, that they can't make a living off the arts like that, but also kind of inspiring in an odd, manifest destiny sort of way that they're able to do this, and just you can tell that they love what they do.
Speaking of that, okay, so one of the things you brought up, we were going to talk about stories. Can you tell any stories about Big Mike and Arnie behind the scenes, Ryan? Because I kind of said this today online. I know you saw the comment, but those guys just seem like a freaking blast. But they're doing so much. Like, they're constantly busy and like 100 things.
The biggest thing with that story is I've been trying to schedule with them probably about 5 weeks straight, and Mike is so kind of frenetic with how he responds to things. It is yeah, we're going to do this on Monday. I'll get back to you. And then Saturday rolls around. I'm messaging him, nothing. Sunday, nothing. And then a couple days later, he's like, all right, yeah, this coming Monday, I swear we're going to be able to get this done. And that happened, 3 weeks in a row, and find out he's just like film set to film set, going throughout multiple countries over there, and it's not always reliable data. There's all kinds of reasons. But when I finally was able to sit them down, I think we scheduled, because they were both in Hong Kong, I think we scheduled very, very late, like 10 p.m. here in the Midwest. And I slept in a little bit that day, knowing I may be up just a little bit late. And we started recording right around 10, like right on time. And about 45 minutes later, one of them said, we should probably actually like start the interview, because we had not actually said, let's go, or had an intro or anything like that. We just sat there just conversing for 45 minutes. And then we recorded for like another hour and a half. And after we were done, gave an outro, they sat there for another half hour. It was like 1:45 in the morning before I actually was like, okay, I got to work in like 4 hours. Time to go upstairs. That was, they are crazy, just hilarious stories. Wild that, they've got an answer for every major director, it seems like, for the last 30 years over there, that I've been in his house on his couch, and I saw his brother drop a pizza or whatever. It's like, what are you talking about? How do you have all of these people just in your Rolodex?
Yeah. No, totally.
What I mean, everybody else, do you remember your first interviews? That was one of my first questions.
Oh, first interview. I know our first interview was a friend. His name's Aaron West. We had him. He's one of the podcasters that does Criterion Now. And I'd been on Criterion Now a couple times. We'd already started doing our other iteration of the show, Cinema Discovery Project, before. It was just one of them things that when we were first starting to do interviews, it was not trying to be too ambitious. I didn't really know how I was going to get anybody yet. I didn't know who I was going to go after necessarily yet. But so I just started with people I knew, and I started with some of my friends, some of my podcasters. And, he was knowledgeable film person. And he was great. He also gracious enough to let us share our podcast on the Criterion Now group page and things like that sometimes. So It was one of them things where, we just, that was the easy place to start. And then slowly from there, after the first couple guests, I think somebody in one of the groups had pointed out Andrew Furtado to me from Severin, and was like, if you're doing guests, Andrew needs to be on, Andrew works for a label. And somebody was like, I can confirm he works for a label. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, he works for Severin. I was like, okay, well, yeah, I've heard of Severin. So then, so then I reached out, and I mean, and the rest is history. From there, my eyes glazed over. And then I started seeing beyond, like, what could I do now? And I looked at all the Blu-rays on my shelf, and I'm like, there's so many names on these Blu-rays that I could try.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. You can turn around, look at your Blu-rays, and there's so many names on the back of these things that we could try to find.
Right.
And talk to
Yeah, I think even then, it's hard to like figure out who worked specifically on which Blu-ray because they don't really give a lot of credit to the minute people, like the people who did the
Mhm.
nuts and bolts of it. So I think we've been fortunate enough to kind of seek them out. Even some, people who do cover artwork and people who do a lot of the graphic design that we've talked to, like Sister Hyde, Scott Saslow, other people like that. And they worked on stuff that I didn't realize would be in my collection, and stuff that's still
Well,
coming out that's going to be
you
in my
become
collection.
more aware. You become more aware. You
Yeah,
become more.
after
Yeah.
a lot of it is social media, scavenging. Really, you just kind of, it's
Right.
kind of like a spider web. Like you latch onto one, and then, chances are they follow these other people, and you just start following them, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook to a certain extent. But it's really kind of some of the other places where you kind of find them a lot. I mean, we had a lot of early on guests. Like I said, Andrew Furtado we've had on 4 times, and I'm pretty sure he'll be on
Something like
again.
that, yeah.
It turns out, I think I've said this on our podcast, he and I grew up in the same state. So
cool.
there was a lot of camaraderie there when it came to like, certain staples of the state in which we grew up in. We may have even graduated high school in the same year, for all we know, just different parts of the state. So it was just like a lot of things like that. Turns out we ended up shopping at one of the same stores for movies back in the day, and didn't know that. But and then we've been very fortunate to, I guess, meet up with a lot of people I never thought we would be able to meet, or I never thought I would be able to meet, just in general. I know Stephen always brings this up. For me, it's Eddie Muller from TCM. That's the one that when Stephen told me that, I almost fainted, I guess.
He didn't answer me for a few minutes,
Yeah,
and
because I was like, "Are you sure this is real? Are you sure he knows what show this is?"
I thought he passed out. Or
I feel like he would be a busy guy. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that would be somebody who would be too busy guest on podcasts, at least for for just to like volunteer, really. But it turns out, with his Film Noir Foundation, that they collaborate a lot with Flickr Alley and other places to put out Blu-rays of movies that have never seen the light of day. And that was a big guest for me, just personal guest, because I've been watching TCM for many years, and of course, Film Noir has always been a big thing for me. So yeah, that was a big, just popped right in my head instantly. That's a forever memory, like memories that are etched in your head. That was a big one for me. But I know Stephen remembers these a lot better than I do.
No, I don't. That's why I leave. That's why
I tried to compliment you, but
that's why I leave a list in our group of every guest we've ever had, and so I can go back.
I may or may not be looking at that list right now because I can't keep track of everybody.
This is where Chris's eyes glaze over because he's been trying to have Furtado on there for months at this point.
And, I wasn't going to say it.
We still haven't got there. I'm saying it to Rib Furtado because we talked today, and I'm still trying to get him on. He's just been incredibly busy. Severin is doing stupid things behind the scenes right now.
They're doing a lot, like way more than they've ever done.
They already talked where they got like 5 box sets coming out this year. So it's like
it's January.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only January.
Yeah.
No. Jack, do you mind if I tell the story of our first one?
Oh, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Just because I don't know how much you know about this. I don't know. I mean, it's not like super dramatic, but I don't know if I've told this story. So if you imagine, I'm going to use this is the label, right? So Deaf Crocodile. But if I'm just going to use this as a visual. So I live here in downtown Austin, and the place where I used to work was here. Okay, that's relevant for the story. So I used to live next door to work. So I get on the line with Deaf Crocodile with Dennis and Craig. First one. We met through Reddit. I noticed that Craig was active on Reddit, and I was like, any chance you want to do a podcast? He was like, sure. And I was like, okay. We have like 4 episodes, and we're super small. But he was like, let's do it. And then he didn't tell me he was going to invite Dennis, so I found out like a day before. I started Googling, and I was like, shit. He's like a real, like that guy is going to be on the show. So then I'm like researching his whole history, trying to sound like whatever, somewhat capable of having this interview. We get on here, my Wi-Fi goes down, and I'm like emailing them. So sorry, y'all. Literally like 3 minutes. Just wait. I'm sprinting. I have to wait for the elevator, go down 12 floors. I sprint around the block, go into the building, wait, I have to go up 8 floors. It's like the longest elevator rides in my life. Get in, get on the internet. I'm like 7-8 minutes late. which looking back, I mean, they're super chill, but it was the first one, right? So I'm like,
Right.
get on. They couldn't be nicer. Just winds up telling stories and saving me because I have no idea how to interview. And Dennis is just like full Dennis, and Craig gets in a few words here and there. And it was like just an awesome interview. And like I got over, and I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So that was like, I'll never forget that one for sure.
Dennis can talk for sure. He is a hard one to wrangle in sometimes, and it's nice to interview him when he has a hard out, because like, all right, I won't have to stop him. He's watching the clock.
That's true. That's true. But his stories are amazing. Like he always the last time he was on, he's like, "You want to hear a Werner Herzog story?" Yeah, sure. That sounds awesome.
Who says no to that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's one thing I think I've discovered a lot is a lot of the people in this business or around the business are a lot of talkers, a lot of people that like to just talk about the passion of whatever it is. Like I could probably name 4 or 5 that we've interviewed that you can't get them to stop. And I know, Ryan, one of them, definitely Brad Henderson is one of them.
He does talk, but it's all good. It's all good stuff.
It is all good stuff, but it's like, dude, it's just like it's the dam is broke, and you're trying to stop the water, and it's like
I just let it go. I just let them talk as much as they want.
No, I mean, that's the point. You set them up, and then you just let them go, and that's the good thing. But there's been a few. There's like another one that comes to mind is and this one is a little bit weirder, is Matt Patterson from Warner. He used to be Warner Archive employee, and he's a little bit on the weird side too. But you let him go, he just starts talking, and it can get a little bit like, like it goes in. He starts going in different directions. You almost lose focus of what we're talking about, so you have to really listen. A
lot of them can do that, but then sometimes they'll bring it back. You know what I mean? Like they'll work it back in,
sometimes.
And it's just great conversations. For me, a lot of really like an early eye opener one for me was Justin Beam from Reverend Entertainment, who does a lot of the special features for way more releases than I thought I had of his. And he was just talking about like stuff that I was like, this is incredible. Like he was talking about meeting Alice Cooper and talking with him about stuff. And I'm like, this is like, I know somebody who's met Alice Cooper, not like at a convention or going to an Alice Cooper concert, or Roger, going through a McDonald's drive-through with Roger Corman and getting Roger Corman at McDonald's is something I'm never going to forget. Cause it's like,
wow, that's awesome.
I couldn't put that together. And you know what I mean? Like Roger Corman eating McDonald's, like, it's incredible to me.
It's like that can't be good for his health. He's old. He shouldn't eat McDonald's.
I guess everybody needs to eat. Who knew?
Sure.
Who knew? But it's just kind of like those kind of those little stories I find to be the most rewarding part of any of the interviews, because it's stuff you don't expect. You know what I mean? A lot of the stuff you can expect, like, I started watching movies when I was a little kid. It's like you kind of expect that, but these little unique stories about certain, personal things that they've gone through in their lives is stuff you never expect, and it just that's the fun of it all for me.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
I think my first one was Jared from Mondo Macabro, who you guys at Chasing Labels just talked to, and he and I think we had messaged on Facebook for a while. I don't remember what started it all, but I was just, I think I like backed him up on something, and he was having a conversation, and I said something, and then he messaged me to say something. We just chatted a little bit, and then when all this started, I reached out to him. I was like, I'm nobody, but hey, we've talked before. You want to come on here? And he was so cool about it. And that was, gosh, this is probably almost exactly a year ago now at this point, and he told me about Neon Eagle then. And we just got everything announced for that like just a couple months ago. So to see how long some of that stuff takes, and just to be somebody that Jared obviously could feel like he could trust was a big deal to feel like there was some confidence with this. And that has been my like the whole journey of this last year for me. I don't know about you guys. One of the things I was going to bring up is obviously we're all journalist majors, right?
Yeah, right.
Of course.
Clearly.
I'm a great speaker. Also, we know I'm not.
Steven is great with names, and
That's
never watches any
Ryan-
movies.
He's never made one mistake in the entire time I've known
Ryan
him.
Verrill, Viril.
Yep, that was a fun first conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had a lot of people ask, like, yeah, you're a journalist, you've had something about this, right? I'm like, I've had no training. I'm literally a nobody. I just sat down and said I'd ask some questions, and here we are. So yeah, it's been crazy to see some of that confidence grow, because I was shitting my pants at the very beginning of this with a lot of these people, and I'm sure that's pretty much the same across the board for a lot of us.
Just dietary things for me. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you live in Texas, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The first interview I was involved in, it actually helped a lot, because the first one that I was actually a part of was for Error 4444. What was that, like our second or third one, Chris?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, super early on.
Yeah, and so they were about as clueless as I felt, and that was, I was like, we're all just going to wing this, and it's going to turn out okay.
Yeah,
they were young when I talked to them, and that was like a year after you guys did.
Yeah, they were 21, maybe 21, 22.
Jeez.
They were still in college, I think.
No.
Or they had just graduated.
Yeah, totally. But they're funny though, because them and Jason Oy are both the same in that they're young in age, but like they seem to make the right decisions.
Yep.
Like, well, I mean, Crescendo, I hope they're able to stay around. I know they haven't had a second release yet, but like, yeah, age hasn't impacted them. Like, they're just killing it. And I think the Error 44, I think that's the one that they had help from Third Window.
Mhm.
And that dude is like a legend. Freaking, like, talk about somebody who's doing it all. But I think he was tutoring them because they put out a joint release together.
Yeah, their Error's second release, he also did with them.
Okay, yeah. So they were just like soaking up everything he had to say about like doing it themselves and stuff. But I actually have their box set. If we got into labels later, but do y'all have the duology they just put out, like the thick box?
That is a wild box set.
Like, there's so much stuff in it.
It's crazy to me, because they told me when I talked to them that they were trying to level up on every release, and I got that box set and I was like, oh God, what is next?
This is level, yeah. Really?
As soon as I opened that package, there's no way that you can do better than this unless you're like embossing steelbooks and putting them in something like this, because it's a stupendous release.
Yeah, and good, high in quality and also insane in quantity. Like, there's just so much stuff in it. I can't imagine like having all that stuff come to the house and just like trying to package it and have people yelling in your ear that it's not going out fast enough.
That is very true, and I'm sure a lot of us have shared, a lot of the sentiment of people that are maybe a little too entitled in the collector's industry. That's one of the things I've talked about very openly a handful of times. Is one of the reasons I've done this is just to get people to understand some of the like logistical things behind the scenes. Any of that information that still surprises you that you've been able to hear in some of these interviews?
I always just get surprised about. I always am surprised about how knowledgeable some of these people really are. One that comes to mind is Fran. Me and Fran is
read my mind. Stop doing that.
He sorry. Well, that's what we do here.
Yeah.
When these guys are able to like discover, like we're so shocked when these releases get announced and we're like, this is a discovery. And I'm like, so where did you find this out? Like, and these people, they are able, they've been in tune with film for so long, and they've been scavenging for these lost films for so long before we could even think of them. And it just, the knowledge that some of these people have, and Fran comes to mind because it's just some of these films from Radiance that are getting announced. I'm like, whoa, like, and that's what's always surprised me the most is just, when we are all big movie watchers out here, and we feel like we watch a lot of movies, but then we see that what they know, and we're like, well, I don't know nothing. Like, I don't know. I just keep consistently being surprised, which is why I think we keep coming back to this.
Yeah, I would say I'm more surprised that there seems to be this underground like network to try to find these hidden gems of films, these hidden archives where like these movies haven't seen the light of day or haven't seen any decent release since the VHS era, and even then they probably didn't get much of any love whatsoever. And it just seems like navigating that corridor seems incredibly difficult. And also, I've learned what fascinates me the most is that I've learned a lot about when it comes to distribution rights, when it comes to like ownership rights of a lot of films and things like that. It seems like there's this whole like society of or market or economic world of who owns what, where, who's willing to pay for what, who's willing to, how much do certain companies want or certain people want for the rights to these things. And that's why you find out that a lot of movies don't get released is because of economic reasons, really. And that's just kind of the fascinating gambit of it all. You know what I mean? And then that also kind of factors into, kind of running these boutique labels I find to be probably incredibly difficult. The logistics of it seem like a nightmare. It really do. You know what I mean? And even the smaller ones, I find, also have those issues as well when it comes to, manufacturing issues, when it comes to marketing things and all that kind of stuff, and just the basic level of stuff like shipping seems to be an issue. I mean, recently, just as of this last week or two, if you've been trying to buy things from the UK and you're outside of the country, you can't really get it through their Royal Mail. You've got to figure out some other way to do it. I just had like a package lost for like the first time, I think ever from the UK, and it just never showed up. And I was like, yeah, it's probably lost. And because of all this, there it goes. So that's something they have to navigate as well, because a lot of these companies are getting international now, and I'm pretty sure that's a whole other can of worms too. So you learn that there's so much logistics to it. That's why when there's an issue with the boutique label or something like that, I don't really get up in arms like a lot of other people do on certain forums and stuff. And it's like as long as they figure it out and fix the situation, I don't have a lot of issue with it. You know what I mean?
As long as they don't zavvy me.
Yeah,
which
another
is
issue.
take your money and then never give you anything that you pay for.
Or they send it to you in boxes that are like already half destroyed. You know what I mean? Like that's an issue. But I mean, from the company themselves, if there's something like an issue like that, hopefully they'll fix it. We all have horror stories about shipping. We all buy. Some of us buy from Amazon. We know how bad this is. So bad.
But I know it's like I think a lot of us like to joke about stuff, and like I always talk about Severin, their site crashing every November. That's just it's clockwork. You don't really get upset about it, but then you get online and you're like, oh, people are actually upset about this. It's like it's been 4 or 5 years, guys. You know how this works. Like you'll be fine.
They had a did you order the last sale?
I did. I was very proud.
They fixed it. Like
it was fine. It was fine.
I don't know if it was Shopify or what, but they fixed it.
Yeah.
Ryan, the thing that jumps out to your question is I would never want to be Jesse or Mike from Grindhouse Video,
or Mark from Orbit.
From Orbit. Yeah, that's right. Like I couldn't get paid enough to have that job. Yeah. That's the one that jumps out to me the most.
I've had one individual that I've known for a handful of years that just messaged me in the last couple months and was like, hey, I'm thinking of opening an online storefront for physical media in the U.S. and shared this really niche aspect that he wanted to do. And I was like, I love it, but just fair warning. People are assholes, and that's a big part of this. And the biggest thing is I'm still enamored with how kind literally everyone at all of these labels, all of the contributors have been. Obviously we can't name any names, and we wouldn't. But does anybody have any like bad experiences? Anything terrible that's happened with interviews, or people, canceling or rescheduling 15 times, or telling you not to put something out afterwards, or anything crazy?
Yes, I have one. Not bad, but not to have one that said we did an interview once, and it actually kind of goes into your last one about how hard these things are to go in. So to keep this as vague as possible. They essentially talked about like this regional crime syndicate that owned the rights to these films. And, you know, they went into it like really in depth. And then by the end of it, they were like, hey, can you cut that out? And we're like, yeah, sure.
That cannot air.
Like, yeah, sure.
I've had one of those things too where I asked a question. They were like, maybe we don't want that in the public view. So let's get that out of there. Because it was speculation about certain thing that's very government related. So, yes.
No, I wish I could say this name. Oh, I'm trying to think if there's any way I can say it without saying it. Doesn't matter. Somebody who's super into like the hardcore exploitation world. This is funny story of like in terms of like a label owner. Couldn't track him down. Emailed. Finally, I got an email back from his assistant who said, "Just call him. Like he doesn't really respond to email or text. Just call him. He's probably available now." So I called him. He picked up. We talked for a minute. It was his birthday. And I was like, sorry to bug you on your birthday. He's like, no, it's fine. Nice enough guy. But within a 20-minute conversation, it went from, can you do an interview with us? He's like, yeah, of course. Like, do you want to do it now? And I was like, oh, sorry, I'm like on the road. Like, and he's like, okay, well, let's do it, whatever. But then he started talking about his relationship to Satan and his relationship to then coming out of that and being a Christian who's speaking against Satan and writing a book about that experience and having this like transcendental thing. And I was like, maybe I'm not going to be in a rush to call you back. And so we haven't had him as a guest yet. And maybe one day I will when I'm ready for it. But I feel like there's another level of like interview skill to be able to navigate some of that. Although
just let me do it. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, Zach, I'll just put you on it.
Funny enough, after you said that, I went, oh yeah, I know who that is. If it's the same person, I got the contact number and I texted him and he was like, yeah, so I moved. I'm not in the Midwest anymore. I'm on the West Coast and I'm completely a night person. So anytime, middle of the night, it's fine. I'm like, that's okay. Thank you. And just can't do it. I've gotten up super early to talk to people from Australia and stayed up late, but a 1 o'clock in the morning type of conversation about Satan does not necessarily thrill me at this point.
Why don't you want to do it, Ryan?
Just do it, Ryan.
Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?
There's nothing wrong with it, Ryan. Just go to the darkness.
Now I kind of want to do it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I have to throw this to Steven because I haven't had a bad experience with anyone, or even a weird experience.
Not necessarily. No, not really. I don't think we've had any like real like weird conversations. There's been some reschedules, things like that happen. We've had, and I guess this is kind of a side to this kind of question, but like, I'm sure we've all had technical issues, and we've had one really bad one with one of our biggest guests I think we could have ever had, which was with Blue Underground's Bill Lustig. We had him on.
Yeah, we've talked about it, so it's not.
We've talked about it multiple times, but we had a technical issue where we ended up losing that whole conversation. So, and even getting him was one of them kind of surprise things. It was like I reached out to Blue Underground, they got back to me, and I was like, "Oh, cool." It's like the person that I was talking with, I was like, "Hey, I'll talk. I'd be great. I'd be excited to talk with you." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll see if Bill's available." I'm like, "Wait, Bill Lustig?" Yeah, Bill. Yeah. So it was one of them things where I didn't even try to go after Bill Lustig, but then he was like, "Here's Bill Lustig," and I was like, "Cool, awesome." And so that was the horror. One of our only horror story. There's other than
it's the only episode we've ever lost tech wise. Completely.
I mean, I could say horror story recently of losing my computer and then having to do 3 podcasts on my cell phone. Sucked.
And plan an award show at the same time.
And start planning this award show thingy that we were doing.
That was rough.
That sucked for a little bit. But when it came to the recording of the shows, that's the only time we've ever lost something or where the audio is compromised in any big way. But
yeah, sometimes you get glitchy stuff like internet issues and things like that. But nothing bad.
But I was going to say, anybody else have any like horror stories of behind the scenes kind of tech issues?
I had when I had Sean Baker, I had nothing for a good 5 minutes. We were going back and forth, couldn't hear him, could barely see him, And then he came back. He's like, "Yeah, we just had to turn on the Wi-Fi. I'm good." And tried to edit it together a little seamlessly, and it was fine. And then just kind of tried to take off to where we were, but then everything was more comfortable because it was like, "Oh, yeah, this is just two dudes. Yeah, that makes sense." So it was good after that.
He's
and then,
a great interview. Like,
Yeah.
that was another one that surprised the heck out of me. Not to backtrack, but getting to talk to him was another big thing. You know what I mean? Because I had seen his work before, but then just like, because I'm an inherently extremely anxious and nervous person in my life in general. Suffering from anxiety and things like that. So that was one that was really nervous going into it. But he was, he put you at ease right away with how normal he is. You know what I mean? Also, I didn't realize how big of a collector he was and how big of a movie fan he was. Like, he was
He's
like,
like,
he
I
would
have a
talk
whole
about
apartment
everything.
from my
Yeah,
collection.
he had a whole room. Yeah, he had a whole like extra like house for his stuff
Oh, wow.
for the movies he owns, and this is kind of incredible. But that was a great conversation. That was another big highlight for me personally.
we
And I flaunted that too. Like, I told everybody, just to why not?
I started talking to him right after Radiance got announced, and when he said, "Yeah, I signed up for that 3-year deal," like immediately, and I was like, "Oh, okay, you are one of us, absolutely.
Yes.
That's
Damn.
amazing."
That's awesome.
That sold out surprisingly quickly, though.
Yep.
Like, I did not see a lot of people just lock in for 3-year commitments.
It's
I
the Fran effect. It's the Fran effect.
I can't even like. I don't have that. I don't have that type of commitment. Stuff. You know what I mean? 3 years
That's
is a
a
long
whole
time.
other topic. That's a whole other
Yeah,
topic.
a whole other topic, I guess. I'm loyal, but I'm not that loyal, I guess.
Zach, any of your guests that you're still like, "Oh my god, how did I talk to this person"?
I would say for me personally, it was Daisuke, because I know you've had issues getting him.
Yep.
I don't even know how, Chris, you swung that one, but that one was a lot of fun. Honestly, that one was more fun off the record, because after we had done recording, he wanted to just talk to me about Big Trouble in Little China for like 45 minutes. And I was like, okay, yeah, I wish we had recorded that, but that's awesome.
Nice. Yeah,
Wait,
I
what's
can't get him to answer an email.
I've known Daisuke since he started his YouTube channel. Like, I was there at the birth. He was actually on the Criterion Now show with me. We actually both went on that show because we both entered a contest to do a song for a Criterion Barnes and Noble sale. So you can find a song that I wrote and performed.
It's awesome.
About the 2018 Criterion Barnes and Noble sale, and we both won, and we both came onto the show to talk about it and talk about releases and stuff. And so he was on that episode with me, and so we've conversed many times about trying to do a show, and I can't even get him, and I've known him for years. Like, I can't even get him on because he's so busy. He literally does. He's doing a lot more live streams now. He's doing I can't. I started conversations with him like 5 times about getting him on, and he's one of them guys that will answer you once and then he won't answer you again.
And also, is his celebrity
I love him to death. I love him to death, though.
Is this celebrity that's like taken off? Because now he's like posting like, it seems like a TV show or like, and then he also is just doing like random celebrity impressions, which is kind of funny. But
I
like,
love it. Yeah.
No, it's great. It just like it's I don't know. It's like he's got a whole kind of persona thing going on there now. So I wonder if maybe his celebrity's taking another level up or something. I don't know.
It started with the glasses. Once he got recognized for them glasses, and then it became part of his logo, his intro, and it's like, is Daisuke anymore? I don't know. He might have transformed, but no, he's very committed to that channel, and he does a great job. And maybe one day I'll get him on. Ryan will get him on. We'll get there, Ryan. We'll get him. If we can get Sean Baker, and we can get Daisuke. He'll answer me one day. I'll keep sending you Daisuke. I'll keep sending you messages.
This is how I feel about Andrew Furtado, though. I see him pop up on shows, and I'm like, "You do shows? Like, we are show." So like, I guess we all have we all have the one that we're like trying to get. Is there any? So we haven't, like, the big ones for us. Bill Lustig would be like a dream of mine. That's amazing. I have to go. But you said it's not. It didn't actually air because you lost the footage.
It was like a power. It was one of them things where it was like at the time I was using Zoom, and it was like an internet connection thing, and it kept showing that the recording was live, that it was happening, but it wasn't. The connection was lost, and it never was recording. And, so
it was a good interview though. I could say that. I mean,
I'm thinking one day I'll just reach back out. Maybe he'll forget that he did the first one, and then we could just do it again.
Just gaslight. Like, dude, you never did an interview with us. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. That doesn't exist. There's no paper trail.
I mean, it's been a year, and I'm going to give it a little bit longer, but I'm going to try them again.
Well, yeah, and it was to coincide with
a release. Yeah,
a release.
Yeah.
Was it for what was the release, Steven?
Uncle Sam and
Uncle Sam.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was for the 4K release of Uncle Sam, which was his last
movies to put on Blue Underground at this point.
Which we talked a lot about his career, which was really fascinating to me because I think I had marathon like all of his stuff right before that interview as well, just to get prepared, and it was just really fascinating.
Yeah, that's another thing we should talk about. How do you guys get prepared? How do you guys get prepared for your interviews? That journalism stuff's got to kick in.
Yeah, I guess.
Go ahead, Zach.
I said the same way I got prepared for this one. I saw, I got 5 minutes. Let me put on a shirt real quick and get up here.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who changes their clothes sometimes now to do the video stuff. Because it's like, I want to make myself at least look relatively presentable on screen. As for preparation for me, Steven and I are rather opposites for the most part.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what I do.
True. I don't know what I'm talking about. So I try to BS my way through life. But I don't like to prepare a lot because I like the conversations to kind of go where they're going to go naturally. You know what I mean? I don't have a list of questions. I don't have an agenda going in. Like I will in my head, play out some things I want to say, some things maybe I want to ask just in general, but not really anything concrete. And I just feel like I don't want them to feel like I'm grilling them like in like a press interview or something, because it's not a press interview. You know what I mean? It's about anything really they want to talk about, whether it is movies or whether going off on a tangent about something else. You know what I mean? I don't want to restrict them to. Yeah, could be. Could be. If they can work it into the conversation, could be. But I know Steven, I know you're a little bit more prepared than I am sometimes. Or maybe at least early on.
Sometimes it's like Zach here, where I literally, there's been times where like I'm like something's going on before the podcast and before the interview, and I'm like rushing to get down here, and I'm coming in flustered. And that's when I feel like the interviews don't always go as well. Like, not that I think any of our interviews have been necessarily bad, but like, they go best when my mind is in the right place.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get down starting the interview and I'm like in the wrong place, and it didn't always start out great.
Yeah, the mental preparation just to be in the mood to talk
to somebody for an hour and a half.
In depth about anything, or even not in depth about anything, is I think it's half the battle, really.
But I think
sometimes you just don't feel like it. To be honest,
I think the key. And I would say for this whole thing, and it's what I've learned over doing many of these, is that really the key for me is listening. Like you have to listen. If you're not listening to them, there's no way this is going to go well, because like I think we've all are saying, we don't really prepare. I mean, like we prepare, but we're not writing down a lot of questions. We might have certain ones, but for the most part, it's if you're listening and you're going off of, you're letting them lead you. And sometimes that depends on them, like sometimes some people need to be pushed a little bit, but a lot of times these people, they have a lot of good stuff to say, and you just got to listen. You just got to feed off of what they say. And that's what brings out good stuff. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear your answer to this, Ryan. For me, like, it depends on who I'm talking to. So, one of my outreach strategies is to find people that are brand new into this space, because I feel like they're going to be excited to do things like this. And so for them, I tend to prepare less, because what I've noticed is that if I come in hot and heavy with a bunch of stuff, it's almost like a bit off-putting in a way. Like they're nervous already kind of coming in, and like now they have to answer these really like specific questions, and they might not be ready for it. We just finished one that's going to air in a couple weeks where I don't think the person's ever bought a DVD in their life or Blu-ray. Like, I brought up two different things within the conversation, and he's like, "Oh, I never heard of it." And I was like, "Oh." One of them was like 88 films, and he lives in Europe. He's like, "Never heard of it." I was like, okay. So like, I mean, no judgment, right? Like this, what they put out is festival movies, and their life is going to festivals and finding new movies. So maybe they don't have a big collection. Like, that's fine. But like, you have to kind of make that quick pivot and just talk more about their movies. So I just kind of made a conversation about his releases, and like, it was okay. That was not how I wanted to prepare for that going in, but but then for the ones like when we had Indicator on, I prepared a lot for that because I don't know, like, it's just there's going to be more interest around that episode, and like,
right.
I don't want to ask like a dumb question. I still wound up asking 3 or 4 dumb questions, but like, I was trying to not have them all be dumb questions, so I think it just depends.
It's not a dumb question. I don't think there's a dumb question. I think, everybody's listening. There's always going to be somebody that's hearing you talk to these people for the first time, and maybe they don't know anything about these people. And so it's always good, even if they're questions that are softballs, that are easy ones. It's all good to any question that you can get something at, that's helping them be able to express something about what they do is a good thing. So like we said at the beginning, we're not journalists here. We're not, we're not professionals. Anybody that, of course, everybody's going to judge us that way. They're probably, a lot of people sitting at home watching our interviews like, stupid question, like, what a dumb idiot. Why would he say that? I would have asked him this. Why didn't he ask him this?
That's Zach. He always texts me like, you're an idiot.
I get texts from Steven during the interview sometimes, because I rely on Steven to kind of get things moving.
So sometimes I have to let him know that he's involved. So I have to be like, I have to text me like, jump in anytime now.
Well, then it's also like, when do you jump in? Do you wait for them to be done, or do they say something that I can ask them about this now?
That is,
but I don't want to cut them off
thing.
to sound rude, like I'm doing now with Steven.
No. This is what we do. But it is the tough thing with me and Andrew. Me and Andrew do interviews together, so there is this like thing where it's like, if we're both involved in doing the interview, we both have to feel it. We want to make sure we both are giving each other time to talk to that person, but we're also not trying to like, bog down our guests. Obviously, we want him to talk as much as possible. So sometimes there's a balance problem there, and if there's a critic on us more than anything, it's me. I criticize us on our interview skills more than anything, and I have to every once in a while I have to remind Andrew and myself that the things that we're doing that we need to work on. Whether it's like popping in on talking over each other a little bit, things like that, because we get excited and we like want to talk about, you want to get a point in. And, that's one of the tough things for me is sometimes when you're listening to a guest and you're listening to them and they keep talking and they keep talking. And then there's a point you want to say, you want to bring up something, but then they keep talking and you're like, I'm going to fucking forget this thing I want to say, and so, you want to find a way to pop in without interrupting them, but then then maybe you write it down, but sometimes you don't have a piece of paper or a pen around. You're like, fuck. And then you like cut your finger and you start writing in blood. And then you're like, shit, I'm bleeding now. And then like,
don't get it on the keys.
And then you have to stop the podcast because you passed that. No, but it's one of them things. It's tough. It's not always easy, especially with me and him doing it. And, but it's, we're not professionals. Let's just put hold it at that. We do our best.
It's a lot of improvisation, really.
Oh, yes.
You're kind of just making this up as you go along, to take the Indiana Jones method. At least that's the way I kind of roll with things.
Nice.
And I think we always we start with the easy softball question of like, where did your love of movie start? That's how we always started.
Yeah,
to ice break it, and then it goes from there.
Work your way up to like, how did you get from there to here? You know what I mean? Like, what avenues did you take? And then sometimes that journey just goes in directions you didn't expect. You know, when we talked with recently we talked with Tony Stella, who does a lot of fantastic artwork.
Why are you telling people about Tony Stella? We haven't announced that yet.
That's all right.
No, I'm just
We
kidding.
announced it.
No, we
but-
haven't. We haven't announced
Well,
it.
guess what? That's an exclusive then. Tony Stella, who we talked to. Thing is, that's also the one thing is that Steven does all the booking and then all the setup of like where this is going to go. But Tony Stella was someone we got to talk to, and his life is fascinating in terms of how he came to movies and how his life, progressed to where he is now. You're just talking about all kinds of things. So that's a sneak preview, I guess, for anyone listening who also listens to Chasing Labels.
I'm going to be like one of the guests. Here, edit this shit out.
Don't edit it out.
No.
Don't listen to him.
He's already
all
spoiled
I'm
it.
feeling is jealousy. I need a Steven to be able to handle everything for me. That'd be wonderful.
I thought
To
about.
be honest, I'm glad he
I thought
does.
about stopping podcasts and just booking for people. I'll just do
No,
that.
it's
a lot less stressful.
You're the booker.
But yeah, right, Ryan. I mean, what are some of the, what would you say are some of your kind of strategies when it comes to interviewing?
Well, first, I didn't want to say it in the moment, but as a two hosts talking over each other thing, just funny observation with They Live by Film. I think there's been probably 3 times I'll be about 12 minutes into a conversation and all of a sudden go, "Oh, Zach's there." Because it's his first time saying something in that episode.
Yep.
Preparation wise, I've pissed a couple people off when I've answered this question before because I mostly don't do anything. I try to just keep my finger on the pulse throughout the rest of the week and have that knowledge just build up. And then when I come to a conversation, I've got 9 different spider webs of information that I can travel down certain strands and try to string some conversations together. I think I've had 3 conversations that I've done some sort of outline for. One of them was because they literally asked for an outline for the entire thing, and I was like, I've never had this before, but sure, yeah, I will absolutely give you one. Another one, they asked for a sampling. I think the exact verbiage was, I would like a sampling of all of your questions. And I was so confused by sampling and all at the same time. And then I think it was the very first time that I wrote out an actual plan was when I had Sam Deegan, and she is in this space. It's kind of rare to be able to have a lot of time with females that are able to speak on these things, or somebody of a different race sometimes. And it was, I believe, the first female guest that I had on the channel. And it completely bungled everything because the day that I was able to get a response from her was the day that Roe v. Wade was appealed. And we were talking about some things, and I said, you deal a lot with protest cinema. I feel like we would be kind of kicking ourselves if we didn't talk about this in some way, see how it's referenced in film, and just see how, the arts might respond to something like this. And so just to make sure that we didn't go into any sort of offensive categories or do anything to not appeal to the widest audiences, I set up just, hey, let's do these 5 things, transition this way, and just see where the conversations take us within that framework. And I think it helped quite a bit for that one, because it felt there was a little more gravitas with that conversation. It felt a little more important, so it was nice to have that skeleton. But yeah, most of the time, even with somebody like Sean Baker, I think I had 2 thoughts of, yeah, I definitely want to hit on this. But other than that, I just kind of want to see how he is as a person, and we'll see what happens.
I'm going to call BS because you had a whole week of mental health talks. There's no way that just happened.
I will happily share that it 100% did.
Wow. Really?
The crazy thing is all 3 of those conversations were recorded 3 months ahead of time. And they all just fell into place. I had one conversation where I asked Heather Drain, hey, do you have something that you don't get an opportunity to discuss a lot that you might want to talk about during our conversation? And she brought up gatekeeping, because it was something that she had seen a lot that week. And then the very first time that I spoke with Kat Ellinger, after we turned off the recording, we started talking about ADHD for some reason. And I shared, hey, I just got diagnosed literally 3 months before we were talking, and she was like, "Oh, no way. I love to talk about this. Let's talk about this again sometime." And I shared I've got kids with special needs, and so did she. And so we just eventually scheduled it, and I had it in the hopper ready to go. And then I was on another conversation on another channel, and Celeste saw my conversation and reached out and said, "Hey, I like how you talked about dealing with trauma with this." I was like, "Wait a minute, this is kind of perfect. Let's just put them all together." And yeah, it worked out wonderfully.
Okay, then I stand corrected. It was
Yeah,
awesome. Though.
he's lying. He's so lying. No, I'm just kidding. No, but them conversations are great. I brought it up when I was talking to Celeste when we had it on recently. I told her I was thought them conversations were fantastic. And yeah, I mean, yeah, these interviews can really naturally bring out some just really, especially, somebody like Kat, who's just got so much, she's got so many opinions on so many, subjects. And, it's just, it's got such a great mind. You got it. All three of them did great. It was just all three brought something different that made me think about something different about my own mental state. In some way. So yeah, great stuff, man.
I appreciate that. I genuinely, I think that might be the three things I've been most proud of on the channel. It's not something that's a normal answer. It's not something that is even something most people would want to watch, I'm sure. But I think that there's a lot in those that I will be able to go back to eventually and discover something about myself with it too. But that leads to the next question. For each of your shows, what are you guys most proud of? Like, what is the one conversation where you're very, something about that conversation that you're like, wow, like this actually was a very impressive thing, and I'm definitely proud to be a part of it.
God damn it.
That's a tough question.
I'm happy to go first if y'all are thinking.
Go for it. Yeah, please.
So I brought this hoping that there's a chance to show it on the channel. So I had I don't know if proud of is the best word, but I had AGFA is in Austin where I live, and I was excited to get those guys on. And it just so happened, I don't know if I'd love to hear if this happens to y'all too, because it hasn't happened a lot, but it was one of those conversations where every insight and every question was like simpatico. And it was just like we were on the same wavelength, and I was just like, hell yeah, at the end of the interview. And so that was probably one of the ones where I don't know if proud is like the right word for bad pussy, but right. I'll stick with it. It was that title plus what AGFA's doing and their mission, and they got me connected to something weird. And Lisa doesn't do a lot of interviews, and like that wouldn't have happened without that connection. And so I don't know, just like it led to like some cool stuff that that was one I was really happy with.
Nice. It was a great conversation too.
Thanks.
Oh, it's tough, man. I think it's also tough to always, we do this we do so many interviews that it's hard to sometimes focus in on one particular one that I feel really proud. I mean, that they're just all of them. I feel like there's something typically that I really like. I mean, like as Andrew already spoiled, Tony Stella's interview, I think everybody's going to really enjoy. I think his all the things he had to say in that interview were just amazing. His but one that comes to mind, Myra E. Gates was one I really loved doing. She's we're big film noir fans, and she's a film noir expert, and we had her on in last November, and she was just so fantastic. Just a really personable person, easy to talk to. Even though we weren't even able to see her, because I don't know about you guys. Some people don't want to be seen on camera. We've and that's part of the reason we didn't do video for a while until recently. But some people request not to be on camera, and she was one that we just talked to, and just talking to her, just getting her audio, I felt really connected with our conversation, and thought we all had a good thing going, and it was all natural, and that was a good one.
That was a good one. That was a big personal one for me because I had been a big fan of her, or still am, for many, many years. Probably for a decade, really. Someone I had followed on social media, read her work, all that kind of stuff, and just been a big fan. So that was a big one. But I'm going to put one here for me that I thought was really kind of an important one was Adam Perron, from the director of Indigenous programming at the Sundance Institute.
Oh, cool.
Specifically because we got to talk a bit about Indigenous people representation in film, where it's been, or lack thereof, really, and where it is now. And it's really, it was really kind of a really fun thing to kind of learn more about. Just doing the research, you talk about preparation. I think I did more kind of like preparation work for that episode than maybe any of the others because I just didn't know like what that entailed, and I didn't know what like what all of that was for, like what the Sundance Institute does when it comes to sponsoring people's projects and what that specific branch of their thing was, and then talking with him about just a lot of that was fascinating to me and all the stuff that he was into. He also got to go into the Criterion Closet like months later, so I was like, hey, I know somebody who's actually been in the Criterion Closet, which is really awesome to me.
Yeah. Have y'all ever had Criterion on?
That's the lost whale or whatever the hell you want to call it.
That's the Moby Dick.
The white whale.
Yeah. The white whale. The lost whale.
Yeah, they haven't been able to. They haven't responded to us yet either.
I don't think there is that person. I think there's just one big giant head.
Yep.
It's
just
like
one giant capital C.
See, yeah, it's just you. It's like the fucking wizard, and you pull it's just a big scene. You're like, this is weird. Just a big ass scene.
It's like the Wizard of Oz. Behind the curtain, there's a giant head with this one mysterious person behind the curtain. And also, I find like Criterion is interesting to me because obviously been a big fan forever, and kind of starting the boutique world, but a lot of the other smaller companies that we're talking about, like you talk about Agfa and like all those other like labels, it feels like they need, like not need it, but like it can't hurt them to come on these shows and talk about their stuff and to talk about the processes and their movies and all that kind of stuff. I don't think Criterion could use that. I mean, it's like the brand sells itself. They've been around for 40-something years now.
You still want to talk to them, though.
I still want to talk to them too. I don't know how much. I
still want to talk to them and ask them what the hell they're doing. I love Criterion.
Maybe not in those exact words, though.
Hey, we finally got you on. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I know.
It's just
it's an ambush.
I told Chris I guess this was a year ago, right when all that Thriller stuff was going on. I was like, it'd be great if we could get both of those companies on here together. Don't tell them we're getting them all. Record and leave.
I've thought about that a couple times. Like, I should do some Versus episodes. I want to bring on like one person that works for one label and Versus, and bring on another person. See what happens in the conversation. Like, get the guys from Indicator to come on with some guys from Arrow or something, and see what see what happens.
Get Arrow, Blue Underground, and be like, so tell us about Django.
Yeah.
Totally. No,
what is interesting?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that a lot of the people we've brought on from the labels and whatnot, like, they've all mentioned like other labels and how they know people from there and how they're all like friends and stuff. So there hasn't really been at least a lot of competition on that level. So I found that surprising, because I always think of like sports terms and whatnot, rivalries and things like that. But there doesn't seem to be like that. Maybe a lot of that's just made up from us, kind of like
probably some of it is, but I think I'm sure there's some level of competition there. Especially when it comes to licensing things, they gotta there's certain films everybody wants.
Everybody seems to be going after a lot of the same films. I mean, on our recent episode we just talked about what was that movie? Full Circle,
The Haunting of Julia.
The Haunting of Julia.
It's got 5 releases in 1 week or something.
3 different releases from. The third one we don't know yet, but got 2 releases from 2 different companies, and I heard that there's a third one coming out with all different features.
Yep.
And I was just like, this is kind of wild. It puts a lot of onus on us as, I guess, fans and collectors, having to make the ultimate choice, but still, it seems like everybody is putting out some similar things.
It's like a Dark Sky putting out TCM with Second Sight, and they actually have exclusive features and stuff. You're like, great.
I know.
Just
gonna buy it 4 different times.
Well, I wish it was 4 different times.
This Second Sight release is it for me. It's it.
I mean, talk about a movie that's been released more times than you can count in so many different ways. I mean, I was talking about movies, but yeah. That and I think Halloween have been released so many times. In terms of the horror genre,
Evil Dead has entered the chat.
Evil Dead, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
As it is, I'm looking at my collection. I think I own at least 2 or 3 copies of Evil Dead. So that makes sense.
If anybody ever wants to have the versus conversation, I know the way in. Just set up an old Anchor Bay team discussion, because that's where basically everyone's from, right? Like, you just set up an old Anchor Bay reunion, and you can have everybody on. Essentially, that's where we buy from now.
That's how I'll get Bill Lustig back. I'll be like, Bill, Bill, you want to do a versus episode? Like, what? What are you talking about versus?
I know.
You know,
by the way, our special guest here is David Gregory.
Fight it out. Fight it out for supremacy.
Sounds like we're doing Celebrity Deathmatch or something, where they're all going to be claymation
nice
versions.
Sit them down in front of a plate of progressively hotter wings and have them tell stories about them.
I was thinking of American Gladiators when they're on like that bridge and they're fighting with the things.
The giant
back in the
Q-tip.
day. Yeah.
Any final questions as we wrap up? Anything anybody wanted to hear just from everybody else's experiences?
What is I'm curious to hear from y'all. Is there a label that you feel compelled to promote just personally? Like, you love it regardless of the personality behind it, but like, you just feel like it's your spirit animal.
It's tough because there's a lot of them I really love, man. I mean, first comes to mind is Fun City. Fun City's Jonathan over there. He's great. And he's one of the guys. He's one of the interviews. There's a great one right there. Every time Jonathan, we talk to him, he's just so game, and so he so much appreciates, the love. Like he wants to do it as much as he can. He's one of the great ones. Fun City's one of them. I would say. I'd say Indicator's another one. I really love them guys. They're really good to us too, and their releases are they fit into my need for discovery. Everything that they're putting out, and they're one of the labels other than Criterion that got me really hooked, and so I always feel good about talking to them guys. They're always and promoting them, and I'd say them too. Fun City and Indicator.
I think one of my answers is going to align with Chris's. I'd say Air 4444 is one. Just two young people that I could see if I had a couple different connections, I would have done every single thing that they were doing and tried to go down a similar route. And then Mondo Macabro is a big one for me. I still don't understand how they are so underrated in so many people's minds. And I think it's because literally everything that they put out is a discovery for 95% of the population. So it's tough, and I get that. But the hard part is every single release is so high quality. It's hard to argue with. Once you do one and you go, well, damn, I love their curation. So now I know I'm probably going to love them all. Oh, and then I guess Jesse, I'll throw in Cauldron as well, which made Neon Eagle perfect as just the combination of Mondo Macabro and Neon and Cauldron. Jesse is a wonderful person, and I feel so bad for, like you mentioned earlier, he and Mike and Mark and all the complaints that they have to deal with. Some of the horror stories that I'm not sure if you guys have gotten them as well, but some of the stuff that they're told just through email because somebody thinks that they're anonymous, they are treated like absolute garbage a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's terrible. Andrew or Zach, what do y'all think?
Yeah, I'll say that's all. I'm kind of surprised people are going at them. It's like a lot of that stuff is out of their control. You know what I mean? I don't want to go off on a tangent. That's what I do. But I'll just say a lot of their issues are probably out of their control. So I don't know why you go after them. But anywho, for me, like Steven said, I would definitely say Fun City. Um, like just the quality of their releases are so great. The artwork's beautiful. The slipcovers are great. I'm a big slipcover guy, so that kind of fills my need. Having to track them down after they go out of print so quickly is a tough thing to do. Um, I really like Canadian International Pictures.
Oh, cool.
I've really been getting into their stuff lately. I think a lot of it had to do with when we had them on. They really gelled well with us, and then with the program and all that kind of stuff, and the work they're doing. I find to be unique to kind of just focus on kind of, I would say, lost or underappreciated or just forgotten Canadian films, like specifically go after Canadian films. It makes their pool a lot smaller, but it also, they were able to pluck out some gems. I really enjoyed, their stuff. So those two are kind of the major ones. But everybody's doing such different things. Second Sight, I'm incredibly impressed with, because the amount of effort and the amount of just work they're putting into some of their deluxe limited editions is unreal, really.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like these are the editions you think of when you're like the ultimate edition. They always put ultimate on
Mhm.
like certain editions. It's like, no, these are the ultimate editions.
Ultimate.
Yeah, you get what you pay for, and that's kind of something I always factor into it. It's like putting a monetary value on some of these things is kind of difficult, but with that stuff, you always get what you pay for. You know what I mean? You get everything you could want. So that just from like collector's perspective, that one clicks in my head all the time.
Before I go, Zach, what do you think?
I've probably the one that I guess I discovered through us doing interviews was really Deaf Crocodile stuff, because I guess we started with them when they first announced their Assault on Precinct 13, which I will love to see on 4K eventually. And since then, I've bought every one of their releases. Got their Kickstarter for Solomon King. I just think they're a great label, and they've kind of been my go-to, and they're probably one I'll actually stay complete on, unlike the other ones I've tried to do.
Yeah, I love those guys. Yeah, Error 4044. 44.
Wait.
Agfa is one, but then I was gonna say Deaf Crocodile as well. Like I'm here now, so I've seen 6, and I'm watching Solomon King soon. And like they have this way of bringing international films in, but it's not like overly kind of difficult, pretentious, like hard to watch movies. Like they find these incredibly accessible, super interesting films. Like, I don't mean to put y'all on the spot, but have y'all seen Zero Grad yet?
Not yet.
Yeah,
Like,
I watched
it's so
when
good.
it was first announced,
right?
Yeah,
actually.
the one where the guy, the dude
cake,
goes,
he has the cake. That's
Yeah.
his cake
and then he goes
Yeah.
into the office, and that woman's naked.
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah, I remember
Um,
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when they announced those first 3 releases before they were even a partner label with Vinegar Syndrome. They had announced those kind of randomly, and we covered it on the show just as like, hey, this is a new label that's coming out. And then now they've kind of, put out so much more ever since. It was like Zero Grad, the
Shandakor.
Russian folklore film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ilya Muromets. And Sam
Ilya
Fogle.
Muromets. And then there was a third film that I can't remember now, but that was one of their first 3 releases. And yeah, I think
It's cool. It's a cool movie. Yeah.
the work they're doing is really fantastic.
So anyways,
A lot of those partner labels kind of cropping up and doing some of the best work, I think, in the boutique realm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always something there that surprises me every single month, where I'm like, where did this movie come from? Who's putting this out? A lot of that seems to be happening all the time now, which makes it up really exciting to kind of discover these new things.
Totally. Yeah, now Vinegar Syndrome Labs, they can do it too if they want to.
Them are
No,
one of their 314 partner labels.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping for a 315 because that's a more better round number, like Ryan. Like,
Indeed.
so.
I like pi. That's why I went to 314.
Oh,
Nice.
shit. Well, never mind. Sorry, my bad.
3.14.
The funny thing is, I don't even love pi.
You don't-
All right. So we named a bunch of labels that we like to support. The biggest thing I'll say, everybody support these guys. The main thing that I have always gone to these two shows for is that you both seem to ask the questions that I would want to ask these people, and that's what drew me to these shows in the first place. I genuinely love all four of you. You guys are amazing, and maybe we can do this again another year. This has been pretty fun.
We love you too, Ryan. Thank you for bringing us together.
Imagine if he just cut it off right there.
I love you, Ryan.
too,
I
Ryan.
love you, Ryan.
Love you
And
guys.
then
Assholes.
that's it. I'm totally for February. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think this would be nice to, maybe make it either a year or 6 months, whatever you want to make it. Like we can come back and reevaluate, or just have another open discussion that see where it goes. Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Thanks everybody
Yeah,
for watching
yeah.
and listening. And anything else? Anybody have any shout outs or teases they want to give?
No. No, I'm just kidding.
I thought you were going to say something relevant.
I know, right? That's why I
I thought
did
you were
it.
going to tease at least something coming up. I don't
No,
know what we got.
Check
be
out
honest.
everybody here's podcasts. Show the love.
YouTube channels.
Go subscribe to Everybody Here's stuff. That's all I want to say.
Please.
And there's a lot of other people doing great work, people that we know. Just do it. Just go watch it.
We're not journalists, but we're passionate.
And hey, keep on watching the movies. No, I'm just kidding.
I know I
We're
will.
not on the shit. We're not on chasing labels.
You
damn
can't set it up like that and not have me slam dunk it in.
it. Sorry,
Come on,
sorry,
now.
Andrew.
All right, I'm going to press the button. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.